What is the most insane conversation you have ever had with your parents? 1. When I was in high school in 1965, I was reading a book about lesbians called The Grapevine. My mom asked me what I was reading. I said a book about lesbians. My mom said, "That's nice. You love the theater." I said, "No, those are thespians. This is about lesbians, women who love women, not men." My mom insisted there was no such thing as a lesbian, adding that the proof was that there was nothing two women could do together. After my mother became hysterical, I went to my room. Later that night my father paid me a visit. I was a little worried as my mother was his princess. He said, "Laura, your mother is 45. She has made it to 45 without knowing what a lesbian is. Unless you are a lesbian, feel free to not educate her further." I think when my mom was about 80 she told me there were actually lesbians. 2. One day when I was about 19 I walked in on an argument my mother and father were having. All of a sudden my father said to my mom, "Well, I suppose you are gonna tell her now." I said, "Tell me what?" That's when I found out I had two half-brothers my father had, both with married women before he met my mother. These two married women never told their husbands that the kids were not their blood sons. They wanted to stay married because of other kids they had and made my dad promise never to say anything to these two boys. Secretly my father kept tabs on them from afar. But I wanted to know more. So I approached my favorite aunt and asked her what I wanted to know. She advised me to stay away and not to stir the pot. Out of respect for not wanting to cause an eruption for these two families I did just that. Everyone involved are now deceased, including the two half-brothers I never met and their mothers and the husbands of these women. Plus my parents. I'm not sure I did the right thing. I have sister-in-laws and nieces and nephews out there now that I never knew or met. But I did find out a few things a way back. Seems both half-brothers did not know of each other either. And both were always getting arrested for something and had shady police records. Maybe it was just as well that I didn't pursue the matter. I had enough drama in my life. Still though it bothers me but not like it used to. The secret stops with me I guess. 3. I was a straight A student in high school, and in my sophomore year I was receiving brochures from college. I had some spread out on the kitchen table, and Mom and I were discussing which ones would be worth a visit during my junior year. Dad came home from work, noticed the brochures, and scoffed. "She's not going to college. I'm not paying for her Mrs. degree like her sister." I started to explain to him what degree I wanted, and wasn't going to college to get married, as my sister had done. Mom cut me off, stood up and got in Dad's face. She sternly pointed out that he had paid for my brother's B.S. and M.S. and if I wanted to go to college I damn well was going to go. Dad and I both stared at her, our mouths agape, because Mom never contradicted Dad in front of us. As it turned out, I earned enough scholarships and had a part-time job on campus, that I was a bargain, costing them very little out of pocket. 4. I was at the baby shower for my first child. It was summer in a hot area so I was wearing a sleeveless dress that went to just above my knees. It wasn't racy or exposing anything at all. The party was at a friend's house and wasn't very large. I was sitting in a circle opening the gifts. Everyone was chatting. My mom came up to me and asked in a stage whisper, "Are you wearing any underwear?" I just stared at her for a moment, trying to figure out exactly how to respond to such a question from my mother while I am 7 or so months pregnant at my baby shower while the one friend who had heard her was literally dying of laughter next to me. I finally managed, "Of course I am. Why wouldn't I be?" She just shrugged and wandered off. Several years prior my future husband and I were visiting my mom. We had just started dating. I think it was less than 6 months. I think this was the first time he met my mom actually. We'd been visiting a day or two already and were trapped in the car with her on the way to go shopping. She got upset with me for Lord only knows what and was going off about what a horrible daughter and human being I am. She turned to my then boyfriend in the passenger seat and asked him something along the lines of, "Right? She is a horrible daughter, isn't she?" The poor dear had no idea what to do. Defend his girlfriend and risk the ire of the girlfriend's mom or not defend me and risk my ire? Being the smart man he is, he responded with something along the lines of, "I haven't noticed her being awful. She seems to be doing her best." Mom didn't have a comeback to that and we were at the store so the moment ended. 5. First off, my mother was an extremely conservative fundamentalist evangelical Christian. When I was 15 we had a conversation that went like this. Mom said, "You should start thinking about getting married. You are getting old. My cousins were all married by your age." Me said, "But you guys have forbidden me from dating, going to dances, or other social events, even at church, until I am 18. Mom said, "You still need to start getting serious about this. You are practically an old maid." Remember I am 15 at the time. Me said, "But it is illegal to marry at 15 in our state." Mom said, "Don't worry about that. Just find a husband, one with a good job and prospects. We will go to another state if we have to." Narrator's notes: to find a husband with a good job and prospects implies someone who is old enough to work full-time. In other words, someone who is over 17 at the least, which was also illegal in the state I was living in. It was considered statutory rape even if the parents signed off on the marriage. Also pretty sure that interstate transport of a minor for immoral purposes, forced marriage, is a federal crime. 6. When I was like 14, I was called upstairs to find a police officer with my parents. They wanted to know why I'd been taking the car out of the garage in the middle of the night. I had no idea what was going on. I was told the car had been taken out at least a few nights. Why did I do that? I told them I had no idea what they were talking about. I also asked why you didn't wait up to see who brought the car back, if it actually was ever missing. I was repeatedly asked by the officer and both parents. Surreal. I still have no idea what that was about. If the car was taken for a spin, it was likely my youngest brother's reprobate friends. 7. It was last March when my girlfriend, ex now, gave my son, myself, and my dog 3 weeks to pack and move because she was moving out of state and into the home of her wealthy relatives. She offered for me to come along knowing that I would say no. She'd been cheating on me for over a year at that point. I packed up all that I could in 2 weeks. I was livid when it came to the last day we were at the apartment, and that's when she and my son heard more than I ever wanted to say and express. She had someone to move in with and we didn't. I asked my mom if we could move in with her. She said no. She eventually said yes, then changed her mind shortly after. This yo-yo situation happened for a good month and a half before she said yes, and we came up with an agreement and signed the bottom of the paper. Her excuses of us not moving in with her was that I'm lesbian and the bishop of her church said that I cannot live with her. I told her that if she doesn't let me live there, then I'll lose my son to his dad and I will live on the streets. It didn't change her mind. So yes, the conversations I had with my mom were insane, and I'm grateful that my brother and his wife stepped in to convince her that we need to or should live with her. Another thankful situation was when I found an apartment, 6 months from my breakup, for my son, dog, and I that fits my tight income.